One night a cold wind blew. As the dark mouth of the cave became clearer, a yellowish mist seemed to cover everything, making everything feel distant and unfamiliar. Alex wasn't exactly regretting being here, but an unsettling feeling still grew within him. He was 16, brave enough to venture into the unknown with his friends. They had come to explore a long-abandoned cave on the outskirts of their town. But as the night grew darker, Alex couldn't shake the strange sense of unease. The deeper they went into the cave, the thicker the silence became. The dim light of their flashlights struggled against the shadows dancing on the jagged stone walls. "Let's go a little further," Alex said, but his voice trembled slightly. His friends hesitated, their glances increasingly uneasy. Suddenly, they heard a sharp crack. Paralyzed by fear, Alex and his friends stood still. They tried to make sense of the noise, but just then something moved behind them. They turned, but no one was there. Then a shadowy figure appeared ahead. It moved toward them slowly, leaving eerie marks on the walls with each step. Alex and his friends quickly backed away. They didn't know how long they had been running, but the cave seemed to grow narrower. No matter how fast they moved, the figure never seemed to lose ground. The darkness deepened, and the cave seemed to close in around them. Soon they stumbled upon a strange door. Unlike anything they had seen before, they cautiously walked through it, unsure of what they had found. The moment they crossed the threshold, it wasn't a cave anymore. They found themselves in a long, dim corridor. At the end, an old door, one that resembled the entrance to a mental asylum, stood ominously. "Where are we?" Alex asked, his voice barely above a whisper. His friends looked around, just as confused. The door creaked open as they stepped inside. The moment they entered, they felt a sudden, cold draft that sent shivers down their spines. The walls of the asylum were crumbling, yellow with age, and the air was thick with a strange, musty odor. As they walked deeper into the asylum, the door slammed shut behind them with a deafening thud. The place felt abandoned, but the silence was overwhelming. Alex's heart raced in his chest, and they moved cautiously down the dark hallways. Suddenly, from one of the rooms, a figure appeared, ethereal and ghostly, floating in midair. It moved slowly, its form flickering like a wisp of smoke. As it passed them, it seemed to hover around them, its gaze shifting from one person to the next. Before Alex could react, everything went dark. When he opened his eyes, he was lying in a bed. But it wasn't the cave anymore. He wasn't with his friends. He was alone in a sterile, white room. He could hear the distant echo voices, but when he tried to move, he couldn't. He felt an overwhelming sense of dread, as if something had changed permanently. The place felt familiar, yet entirely wrong. He looked around and realized he wasn't alone. In the other beds, there were patients, each staring blankly ahead as though they were stuck in some trance. One of them leaned toward Alex and whispered in a hushed, frantic voice, "This is a trap. We can't leave. None of us can." Alex tried to stand, but the moment he reached for the door, it slammed shut. No matter how hard he pushed, it wouldn't budge. The walls seemed to close in on him. Panic surged inside him, but there was no way out. He wasn't sure if it had all been a dream, if the cave had somehow led him here, or if the asylum had always been his prison. Time seemed to stretch on each day. The doctors and nurses would come, but their faces were strange, distant. They didn't speak to him much, but he could hear their whispers. More like him, they said. They'll all stay here. Alex realized then, with growing horror, that this asylum, this place that had once been a beacon of hopelessness, had become his reality. There was no escape. He was trapped here just like the others, forever. One day, a nurse came close to him, her eyes cold and distant. She whispered, "There's no way out. You're like all the others. You'll stay with us forever." And just like that, Alex was swallowed by the endless maze of the asylum, the whispers of the cave long forgotten. What remained was a chilling reality where time stood still, and the silence of the depths consumed him whole.